Hello. So now that you have all of your sources collected on bibliography cards, you're ready to start taking notes from each of those sources. This video is going to show you how you should do that for this project. Let's look at a few key pieces of information. Remember that all the information you gather from written sources must be jotted on index cards or slides if you choose to do it electronically. But every piece of information that you decide to take from one of your sources, you want to include in your paper later on, it needs to be on a note card. To help you avoid plagiarism, that's the main reason that we do note cards, to make sure that you are not plagiarizing. When you write your paper, you won't have your sources in front of you, rather you will have your note cards. So it's important that when you take those notes, you do it ethically and avoid copying without giving credit. It's important to be ethical when you're taking notes. You'll also need to be aware of the kind of note you're taking, so that you can cite that information appropriately in your research paper. So when we look at notes, we're going to look at 3 different kinds of notes that you will end up taking. Okay, so let's say that I am taking notes from this source. This would be my example bibliography card, and I've given it number 3. It was the 3rd source that I found. Happens to be this source from SIRS, Childhood Bullying Can Linger a Lifetime Study. Okay? When I look at that source and I find something that I want to take notes on, I could decide to do a quote, a paraphrase, or a summary. Let's look at each one of these in turn. When you write a quote, you're going to record a passage exactly, word for word, as it appears in the original, including punctuation. It's also helpful to note who has stated the quote. If, for example, your source is quoting somebody else, you want to say who spoke that quote. If any information needs to be added within the quotation, insert this information in brackets. It's easy to plagiarize accidentally by quoting incorrectly. If you write a quote, say that somebody said it, but it is not what they said, you're misrepresenting their words, and that could be counted as plagiarism. So let's say I found a great line in this article that I just wanted to go ahead and quote word for word. There it is. When I write my note card, I will copy it word for word, have the comma in the right spot, and I will put quotation marks around it. Okay, that's not what your note card will look like, but that's what the actual note will look like if I quoted it. I'll show you what the actual note card will look like in a minute. The second type of note that you could take is a paraphrase. So this is probably something a lot of you are very familiar with doing, is taking somebody else's words and putting them into your own words. When you paraphrase, you do this with a small amount of text. You restate someone else's ideas in your own words, but here's the key. You read a little, write a little. So it's a small amount of text that you are putting into your own words. Keep in mind that when you are taking notes, this is what we would expect to see most of. Most of your note cards should contain paraphrased information. It's tempting to just do quote, 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 but it's better to paraphrase, put it into your own words. So for this same quote, in the current digital age, there are even more outlets for bullying than there were when the study began in the late 1950s, and often what once may have been isolated to school is now following kids home. It's one sentence, read a little. I will write a little, one sentence, but I'm going to put that same thought into my own words. And it says, technology has created more opportunities for bullying to occur both at school and at home. It's still important to make sure that even when you paraphrase, you will give credit to the source in your paper. Taking somebody else's ideas, even if you rearrange them into your own words, if they're somebody else's ideas and you do not give credit, that's plagiarism. The third type of note that you could take is a summary. So the big difference between summarizing and paraphrasing is the amount of text that you read. So when you summarize, you're looking at a longer passage. Instead of reading a little, write a little, when you summarize, you read a lot and write only a little. Take a big chunk of text, shrink it down to a small amount of text. It says on here, you might not have any summary note cards for this project. Most of your note cards should contain paraphrased information. So for this same article, if I summarized the entire thing into one sentence, it would look like this. A study from the American Journal of Psychiatry reveals many negative long-term effects from bullying. Instead of one specific chunk from that where I'm talking about cyberbullying, I'm talking about what the entire study, what the entire article was about. Okay? So when you go to create a note card for one of your sources, you are going to need the following information. You're going to include a heading for your note, which gives you a topic. What is this note about? You're going to include a number up here, and that number is going to match the same number on the card that you created for the source, the bibliography card. You're going to have the actual note, and then you're going to include what kind of note is it? Is it a quote, a paraphrase, or summary? So for this one, where I used this quote, I have the actual note, the quote itself in quotations, and then my heading gives me a topic, what the quote is about. In this case, it's cyberbullying. This is going to help me later on because I can organize all of my notes by topic. If I have several notes about cyberbullying, then I can put them all together, and that will help me form a paragraph in my paper. It's important to have this number here, and it needs to, again, match that number on your bibliography card because that will help you find the information that you need to cite the quote or paraphrase or summary correctly in your paper. So you're not just numbering your notes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This number is going to match the same number as that bibliography card. Again, I have the actual note, and then down here, I know it's a quote, so I just write quote. To review, that information that you need is the heading, the number of the source that matches the number on the bib card, the note itself, what kind of note is it. You should also include, if the source that you're looking at has page numbers, put what page number that note came from as well, because you'll need that for your in-text citations. So let's do one together. Let's say I wanted to do this paraphrase note. I'm just going to copy this. On my new note card, I'm going to type my note. I'm going to give it a heading. This is about cyberbullying. I'm going to include the number of the source that this came from. So I might have to go back to my bib card and see, okay, that was source number 3. So I'll put a 3 here. I know that this is a paraphrase. And this particular source does not have a page number, but if it did, I would include the page number there. Okay, so for Monday this week, I would like you to create at least one note card for each of your sources. We will be writing many more notes than that, but to get your feet wet and practice with this, please create at least one note for each one of the 7 sources that you have found so far. Thanks a lot.